Welcome back to At the Theater. I'm now joined by George Winston, the piano virtuoso here at the Lesher Center in Walnut Creek. How you doing, George?
Nice to meet you.
Well,
I wouldn't say virtuoso. I'm still working on it.
Oh, I don't know. I've heard a lot of pianists, and it's funny how your music has really kind of touched so many people's lives, especially in nature. I mean, that's one of the interesting parts about your music. As a person who's very visual and works in the visual arts, when I listen to Forest, for example, great disc, and
Thank you.
beautiful sounds, and it's the visuals that really kind of draw me to you so much. How do you pull up the inspiration? Do you actually have to go somewhere to actually inspire yourself to actually create music?
Well, I go a lot of places. It's the seasons changing that's my main inspiration, and then topographies are second, whether it's forest, ocean, island, particularly the Great Plains, because I grew up in eastern Montana, Miles City and Billings. So the changing the seasons of the Great Plains is the primal thing for me. But really anywhere on the planet has its season that it's in, its topography. It has whatever the earth energy is there. So I'm glad to be able to go to a lot of places and just soak all this in. So it all goes into the music for me, you know, all the places that I go, one way or another, directly, indirectly, depending on just what I'm taking in that day, what the place is. And I'm just grateful to be able to go to all the places I go to. So it's mainly mainland America, a little bit Asia, particularly Korea and Japan, usually every year.
Mm-hmm. What about Yosemite? What do you think about Yosemite? Has that ever inspired you for any music before?
I've never been.
You've never been to Yosemite?
Believe it or not.
We've got to do a project together.
I've gone to most 200-mile radiuses in the continental U.S., but not for some reason that's eluded me.
Never been
One
to
of these
Yosemite.
days I've got to do it. Next time I'm in Fresno or something, I've just got to go. I know it's on my list.
It's definitely, I've been there several times, and I'd say, once again, back to your music, it's when I'll play something like Forest example, a lot of the tracks on that disc have a lot of inspiration for Yosemite to me. Now, obviously, you've worked a lot of influences in your life. I mean, you've had, Ray Manzarek, a big influence of your earlier days of the Doors.
The Doors. When I grew up, I was listening only to instrumental music. The only vocalists I listened to were a bit of Ray Charles and Sam Cooke, but it was all instrumental. The Ventures, Floyd Kramer, Booker T and the MGs. There were a lot of great instrumental groups in the late 50s, early 60s. And, I heard vocal groups on the radio, but I was more of a Tijuana Brass fan, or Booker T and the MGs fan, jazz organist Jimmy Smith. Then I heard the Doors, and I just said, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. I got their first album, they weren't known at the time outside of LA, and it was just because it said Ray Manzarek organ. And I put it on and said, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. I've got to get an organ playing band, and that was January '67. Wow. And that album, the Doors' first album, was like one long song. And that's the second time that had happened to me. The first time it happened to me was December '65. I was a fan of animation, so I watched the very first of the Peanuts episodes, Charlie Brown Christmas, and I was much more of a fan of organ than piano. But that piano drove me crazy, especially Linus and Lucy, like it drives everybody crazy. And I wasn't aware it was Vince Guaraldi because I missed it on the credits. I was aware of him from his hit Cast Your Fate to the Wind from '62. But anyway, in December '65, I went to the record store the day after just to go to the record store, and there it was up on the wall, Charlie Brown Christmas. And I got it, looked for that song, Linus and Lucy, and I said, this album's like one long, beautiful song with 12 different parts. So that was the first time that happened to me. The Doors' first album was the second time. And Vince didn't push me over to being a player, but the Doors did. But Vince Guaraldi is the person who I play the most songs of. The three composers I've tried to play all their songs are Vince Guaraldi, the Doors, and New Orleans pianist Professor Longhair.
Wow.
And we were talking about the next record, and that'll be out February 2, called Love Will Come, the music of the Vince Guaraldi Volume 2. In '96, I did Volume 1 called Linus and Lucy.
Right,
so
right.
It's the second and final volume, but I just love Vince's songs. I don't play that much like Vince. I'm much more of an R&B player, and he was very much a jazz player. But I love his songs and find a way to, I've tried them all the cues on all 16 of the Peanuts he did. Probably tried 200 of his things, and these particular, about 45 worked out.